All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Peter Schrager, the NFL Network, has just released his first mock draft right here, and I haven't taken a look at it. I really want to break this thing down, kind of first reaction-wise, like we do with all these, different draft insiders. But man, Schrager has really been hyping up this mock draft for a while now. He's been saying that he's tapped in. He's spent weeks on the phone with general managers, with coaches. He's not just throwing darts at the dartboard. And again, yeah, he's just hyping it up, essentially saying that there's like, get ready for this mock draft. So let's crack this thing open. Who does he have the Bears going with first overall? It is Caleb Williams. Okay, so no surprise here, not a ton of explanation needed. This is virtually the pick on everybody's draft board at this point, and it doesn't really look like that's going to be changing anytime soon. Let's scroll down. Washington Commanders, Jayden Daniels. I would definitely agree with this, right? When I think about Jayden Daniels, he just brings so much to an NFL offense, whether it's arm strength, accuracy, decision-making, taking care of the football. He's a great teammate, right? His players loved playing with him. And when interviewed, former SEC players hated playing against him. Heisman Trophy winner, obviously, but he has crazy mobility, crazy speed, breakaway speed. The quick release is my favorite thing that Jayden Daniels brings. I think Washington is going to be fine. Even if Washington wants to go with Drake Maye, I think they have a really good foundation in place with Cliff calling the offense, Dan Quinn handling the defense. They added a bunch of free agents this offseason. They have new ownership, a new GM. Everything is fresh, right? The owner doesn't want to start his brand new regime going on a 10-year playoff drought. I think he's going to be pretty aggressive in making sure that whatever quarterback is taken here, he's going to be put in a position to have success, right? If they need more offensive linemen, if they need another wide receiver at the trade deadline, I think a lot of things are going to be green-lighted in a sense. So again, Washington, it's a fantastic landing spot. Still have some holes on the offensive line, but at the end of the day, they're picking second overall. Not many second overall picks have that many likable traits as a franchise, right? And another thing, too, they have weapons. Like, Terry McLaurin is one of the best young wide receivers in football. Jahan Dotson, he's a young wideout with so much potential. So yeah, Jayden Daniels to the Washington Commanders. Let's see, moving on. Okay, New England Patriots, spot number 3, Drake Maye. So far, no surprises. Drake Maye to the Patriots. It does make sense. As much as I like Drake Maye, and I don't want to see him in New England just as a Jet fan. I think that New England could have the approach of, you know what? Let's just take the high upside quarterback here at the top of the draft. Let's stash him behind Jacoby Brissett. Essentially throw Brissett to the Wolves with not a lot of help on the offensive line, not a lot of help at wide receiver. We don't really have a great running game at this point in time. We have a new rookie defensive head coach in Gerard Mayo, AVP coming in. Brissett does have familiarity with Alex Van Pelt with their Cleveland days. So I could see that as a possible way of thinking. And then with the second round pick, it's 33, 34 overall. You can go out and land a wide receiver there. Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman, somebody like that. Xavier Worthy if he falls to round 2. Like there's going to be receivers in that early section of round 2. Maybe that's where New England is targeting a wideout. And then also tackle. Right, you can target tackle in round 2. You can target tackle with that top end third round pick. So I think, as much as I could see the Patriots taking best player available or even trading down, I think the Pats they're going to ask for so much for a team to come up all the way to spot number 3 to take the quarterback that you can make an argument does make sense for the Patriots. I think in the end, Kraft, there's going to be pressure from the organization. Let's just take the quarterback and build around him this year and not just prolong it a year and take the quarterback next year and have to talk about it every week, have to question it every week. Was it the right pick? Was it the right decision and whatnot? I think they might just take that guy and then in those early second to early third round picks, really target tackle and wide out there. Damn, I just scrolled down. He has the New York Giants trading up 2 selections with the Arizona Cardinals to move up to spot number 4 to select quarterback from Michigan, JJ McCarthy. Man, I gotta be honest. I really do not like this pick here. If I was a Giants fan, I would hate if this happened. First of all, I don't think the Giants should go quarterback anyway. let alone trading up, giving away pick 70 in this class and next year's second rounder to land the fourth best quarterback. Man, if anything, right, if the Giants are hellbent on trading up, I would much rather just see them go to 3 and then have their choice between Drake Maye or JJ McCarthy. Now, if they prefer McCarthy, then this, move makes sense here. But man, when I think about the New York Giants, yes, Daniel Jones is not a franchise quarterback in my opinion. He's not a top 10 quarterback or anything like that. But man, the supporting cast around Daniel Jones is not good enough. It's frankly not good enough. I like Andrew Thomas on the offensive line. I like Jalen Hyatt's potential. But I mean, man, you got Darren Waller considering retiring. You don't have a ton of help at wide receiver. There's nothing happening down the field. It's just not an explosive offense at all. In fact, they actually lost their most explosive player in that last handful of years in Saquon Barkley to the division rival Eagles. You have Brian Daboll question marks at this point about his coaching style. They just gave Daniel Jones a big contract not too long ago here. I understand that they can get out of it at the end of this year. But geez, talk about a real lack of foresight. If you're the general manager, you just handed out a 4-year deal worth over $100 million to a quarterback that nobody considered as a top 15 guy. It was a very questionable signing at the time, and you made that move. You decided, you know what, I'm not going to pay Saquon Barkley. We're going to pay Daniel Jones, and 1 year later, another injury later, it's we got to move off Daniel Jones. We got to trade up here 2 spots, give away 2 high-end picks, and again 70 in next year's second to go in QB4 in the class, and still not do anything at wide receiver. I mean, and also too, Evan Neal hasn't really worked out. There's been some questions on the offensive line. I really do not like this pick. And by the way, I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. I'm not sitting here banging on the table saying he's, this great quarterback prospect or anything. But I'll say this: give him some help, at least. Malik Nabers, I think, makes a ton of sense in this scenario here. Marvin Harrison, right? I don't think I would trade up for a wide receiver, but Malik Nabers at 6. If I'm the Giants, or if I'm a Giant fan, that would be my realistic scenario here. Of course, if Harrison falls, that would be my number 1 choice, but Nabers at 6, I would love that if I'm a Giant fan. I'm not trading up for a quarterback, not at all. Okay, sweet. At pick number 5 here, he has the LA Chargers going with Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver from Ohio State. I love this pick. It's an A+ pick in my opinion, right? You're getting Justin Herbert, the number 1 wide receiver in the class. Marvin Harrison as a prospect is the top of the top, the cream of the crop. When I think of top end wide receiver prospects in the last handful of years to come out, right? I don't want to go as far back as AJ Green and Julio, but I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. The top 2 guys, in my opinion, Marvin Harrison, Jamar Chase, not in that order, but those 2 guys, those are in my opinion, so polished. They bring so many things to an offense. I don't care where Marvin Harrison ends up, whether it's the Giants at 6, the Chargers at 5, Arizona at 4, New England at 3. I think Marvin Harrison is going to go out and put up numbers, right? He just brings so many different things to an offense. The height, the ball control, the foot control, which is crazy. The consistent production, the 50-50 ball, the red zone threat. Gosh, Marvin Harrison is such a clean prospect. So smooth watching him play, yards after catch. He's the man. And the Chargers, they traded Keenan Allen. They cut Mike Williams. They didn't re-sign Gerald Everett, who had a career season with Justin Herbert. I understand the hype with Jim Harbaugh bringing it in, bring him in, build the offensive line and whatnot. But man, from a factual perspective, you are taking weapons away constantly from Justin Herbert. Here's the opposite, right? You get this slingshot effect, right? You lose Keenan Allen, you lose Mike Williams, you lose Gerald Everett, and then boom, all of a sudden Marvin Harrison falls to you at spot number 5. Man, if Harrison ends up with the Chargers, I could easily see him getting 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards, or his rookie season. I mean, you got one of the game's best quarterbacks throwing you the football. That would be insane. Okay, next up at spot number 6 here in the trade down, he has the Arizona Cardinals going with wide receiver from Washington, Odunze. And, of course, in this situation, the Cardinals get that extra 3. They get the extra future 2, which is awesome. And they're landing a great receiver here in Odunze, somebody who I think will be the best receiver on that football team, and you can't really go wrong with that, right? You're giving Kyler a weapon on the outside. They lost Hollywood Brown. They have to get more consistent, more explosive on the offensive side of the football. They got to get Kyler some help. I do really like Trey McBride on the inside, so now Odunze can go win on the outside. I think for me, though, I would probably rate this pick as, all things considered, a B+. You're getting extra draft capital. You're getting, again, best receiver on the football team here in Odunze. I think what would make it an A, though, is Nabers. And I know we just talked about Nabers before with the Giants, but I just feel like he's going to be special. I think Marvin Harrison and Malik Nabers are two wide receivers that wherever they land, no matter who's throwing them the football, they're going to put up numbers. They're going to go out and dominate. Like, that's how special. I just really hold both of those wide receivers in such a high regard. So moving on to spot number 7 here, Tennessee Titans, Joe Alt, no surprise here. This to me, as much as it makes sense, right? The Titans desperately need help at left tackle. And they have the best left tackle in the draft, falling to them at spot number 7. That's crazy. Joe Alt has a high floor. He's not a project. He's going to help in the run game, in pass protection, keep Levis upright, pair him right next to Skoronski at left guard, who is their 11th overall pick from last year's draft. Makes so much sense. I'm just hoping in some way the Titans take a wide receiver here in Malik Nabers. We did hear that Callahan and actually Rand Carthen, Titans general manager, they both said it multiple times. They are going to opt for the pass catcher over the offensive lineman if the rankings are close, right? If their big board is close, they will go with wide receiver. That's not just talk. We've seen Callahan do this in Cincinnati when the Bengals went with Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell. The Bengals desperately needed help at tackle, and they had T. Higgins on the roster, but Jamar Chase was that generational player. I don't like using that word, but with Jamar Chase, it's acceptable. And they still, and they went with Chase, right? They passed on offensive line, and in the end, it worked out for the Bengals. In the end, it worked out for Detroit. They got their guy in Sewell. To me, it was like a can't miss. But do the Titans here, with Malik Nabers on the board, do they stick to their guns and draft him, or do they make, I guess, what would be considered like the safer pick in Joe Alt here at left tackle, filling the bigger need? Because I will say those comments were made before the Calvin Ridley signing, and they paid him $92 million. So do they double dip at wide receiver here? They have DeAndre Hopkins. Traylon Burks hasn't really worked out to this point, but still a young receiver nonetheless. Man, if I was the Titans, I would go with Joe Alt, but with the people in place there, it does make me kind of question or intrigued, what are they going to do? Okay, pick number 8, no surprise, Dallas Turner, top edge rusher in the class, great system fit for Atlanta. Raheem Morris coming in from LA, he has seen great pass rush over there year after year after year, and they're pretty much set offensively, right? They got some offensive line building blocks. They have skill positions in Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, Drake London. Obviously, Kirk Cousins was brought in. Not a ton of explanation needed, much like Caleb Williams. Dallas Turner to the Falcons just makes a lot of sense here. A pick, in my opinion. Wow, okay, we actually have a trade here. He has the Colts coming up to spot number 9 to select Malik Nabers. Now, there's been some rumblings that the Colts could want to trade up in this year's class, but Ballard has never really been that like super aggressive type of general manager. He's always been the more conservative type. He's always been the type of GM to let free agency fall to him, let the draft fall to him, in some cases trade back. I believe he actually he was the general manager with the Jets when they moved back from 3 to 6. The Jets came up for Sam Darnold. He selected Quentin Nelson, guard from Notre Dame at the time. But in this actually, you know what? So he has the Colts coming up to 9, but here, which I love, right? Malik Nabers for the Colts would be freaking insane, giving Anthony Richardson, a dynamic number 1 wide receiver to pair alongside with Michael Pittman. That would be insane to think about. Plus, you factor in Jonathan Taylor coming back fully healthy, Anthony Richardson in the running game, the read option game. I really like this fit. I really, really like this pick. But my only gripe is the Colts sending the Bears a quote-unquote future second-round pick. That's it? That's all it would take to get up from 15 to spot number 9 is a future 2. You don't even get a 2 this year's class. You get a 2 next year's class. That's so cheap. I mean, that is so damn cheap. I would much rather see the Jets want to move up. Like, if that's all the Bears are asking for to go from 9 to 15, what's it going to take, a fourth? One of our fourth round picks to go from 10 to 9? Like, I would do that in a heartbeat. To go land Malik Nabers. That to me would be insane. And I know the Jets like the top 3 receivers in this class. And obviously we really need help at wide receiver. I mean, we're one Mike Williams injury away from, being in the same exact position that we were last year with Lazard and, Garrett Wilson and Brown Lee. We just need more depth. We need more talent there. Again, going back to the Colts here, I love this pick for them, but I'm just floored at the compensation that Schrager has going to Chicago. Like, if I'm a Bears fan, I don't think I'd be happy with that, to be honest. Like, I would want a second round this year if I'm moving down 5-6 spots out of the top 10, by the way. But we have heard rumors that the Bears would like to trade down. I would much, like, if this actually happens, I think I'm going to be pretty irritated on draft night that the Jets didn't trade a mid-round, because you got to think, if the Bears are only asking for a mid or a future 2 to drop out of the top 10, 6 spots going from 9 to 15, is the asking price going to be similar to go from 9 to 10? No. Now, you could say, all right, well, why would the Bears, maybe the Bears want, or they're targeting a prospect that isn't really considered as a top 10 guy, Verse from Florida State or something like that. Latu potentially getting another pass rusher, which totally makes sense. But you kind of have to think, man, a future 2 to go up 6 spots into the top 10, that's just not enough capital, in my opinion. But anyway, Colts going with Nabers. And last but not least, he has the New York Jets going with tight end from Georgia, Brock Bowers. Now, this is, I feel like you put on a mock draft, this is pretty much, the guy that you're going to be seeing linked to the New York Jets. And at the end of the day, the Jets can go in a bunch of different directions. We know this. At the end of the day, if the Jets want to draft an offensive lineman, it'll be a smart pick. If the Jets want to draft a wide receiver, that'll be a smart pick. If the Jets want to trade down, that will be smart. If the Jets want to go with Brock Bowers, you can make an argument that that is the smartest pick, right? Bowers as a prospect is like considered one of the greats, right? Like right up there with Kyle Pitts, right up there with, the Hawkinsons, the Noah Fants, the Eric Ebrons, right? He was another top 10 pick at the tight end position years ago. He's considered like in that top end regard. Now he's not the perfect prospect. There's some size concerns and whatnot. And there's always the looming question. Okay, if Nathaniel Hackett is the team's play caller and offensive coordinator, are they going to put him in positions to have success? It's a question we don't have that factual answer, which is yes. But you got to think, if the Jets are selecting Brock Bowers over receiver, over offensive lineman, there's a plan in place. I would make the argument that Brock Bowers would probably be the best tight end that from a potential standpoint, best tight end that Aaron Rodgers has ever had. I think Bowers would come in and be better than Tyler Conklin. I think he would be better than Jeremy Rucker. I think he would give the Jets a dynamic threat over the middle of the field, somebody that can really attack defenses on the money downs. He would take pressure off of Breece Hall in the running game and Garrett Wilson on the perimeter, and vice versa. I think if the Jets get better in the run blocking area, the play action game with Brock Bowers is going to be lethal, right? Rodgers, consistently handing it off to Breece Hall, then pulling it back off of play action, being able to step up into the pocket and rip passes downfield to Brock Bowers, that fires me up. Brock Bowers is a winner. He is constantly making plays. And again, it does make sense here. I don't know if this is what I would do. I think if I was Joe Douglas and this is the scenario that's kind of playing out and Nabers is falling, Nabers gets past the Titans at 7, I'm moving up with the Atlanta Falcons. Dallas Turner will probably be there at spot number 10. Unless the Bears want to take him at 8. But even if you're the Falcons, you're recouping future picks. and you can go get Verse or Latu. So if you really want to get a pass rusher there, I also wouldn't sleep on corner. I think a corner could go top 11, top 10. Personally, I would not rule it out, right? If one of these teams in the back half of the top 10 went with corner. But anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.